And welcome to the Placer County Transportation Planning Agency meeting. Today's Wednesday, January 28th. And Anthony, would you do us a favor and lead the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Broadway. Here. Brown. Here. Burris. Here. Cortez.
Here. Present.
DiMattei. Here. Dowden Calvillo.
Present.
Howdeshelt.
Present and here.
Jones.
Here.
Wilkins. Got a full house.
Okay, meeting procedures. Madam Clerk, if you would let us.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Agendas are available on the back table here in board chambers or available on the PCTPA website. If you'd like to speak during the meeting, please direct your comments to the board. If you're here in person, we ask that you come up to the podium as this meeting is being recorded. If you're joining us by Zoom, you can signal you wish to speak by using the raised hand button. If you're on the phone, press *9 and we'll call on people in the order requests are received. If you'd like to comment on an item that is not listed on the agenda, please do so under public comment. The Brown Act requires the public have an opportunity to comment on every item on the agenda. We ask you please keep your comments to 3 minutes and invite you to consider stating your name for the record this morning. Your time will be monitored. If you're speaking at the podium, a yellow light will turn on to let you know that you have 1 minute left to wrap up. For those participating online, you'll hear a beep when you have 1 minute remaining. Thank you for your participation.
Okay, I'm going to go to agenda review.
Madam Chair, no changes to the agenda.
Okay, next item is the approval of the minutes from December 3rd, 2025. Anybody, has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes? Have a motion?
Motion. I move to approve.
Okay, I'm gonna
Second.
Okay, motion by Cortez, second by Burris. Roll call or, okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, we're gonna move on to public comment. Hello, anybody out there where persons may address the board on items not on this agenda? We would limit your comments if we had anybody. Okay, good. No, we're not doing any online. Good. Okay, good. Moving on to the consent calendar. Is there anything, the consent calendar for the Placer County Transportation Planning Agency, are there any items that anyone would like to pull off of the agenda to discuss?
I wouldn't like to, I don't want to pull it, but I just would like to make a special mention for H about the,
Oh, we're not at H yet, just yet. We're just on G.
for the consent, right? Yeah,
Consent is
consent.
1 through 4, 5.
Is there not?
G 1 through 5.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm so sorry. I was looking like that was on
Oh,
the
no.
consent.
Oh,
Okay,
no
I'm
problem.
sorry.
No problem. Okay, I need a motion.
I'll move approval of the consent.
I'll second it.
Dowden Calvillo, motion and second by Howdeshelt. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Wonderful. Okay, now we are on item H, fiscal year 2026-27, the preliminary overall work program and budget. And that is going to Jody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, this is the first look at our budget for the 26-27 fiscal year. The assumptions in this budget are we're down to 6 FTE. With a 3% COLA was added to the salary schedule per our personnel policy. I've updated the PERS contribution for both Classic and the PEPRA members, and it actually went down slightly, which I've never seen. And our unfunded PERS liability contribution has been adjusted to next year's rate, which is an increase of $21,000. And our LTF contribution is flat and won't be changed until we have the preliminary allocations for that. Next slide. The changes made in this draft. The staff and benefits have been adjusted for staff workload. And again, the 3% COLA was added to the salary schedule. On the direct cost adjustments, work element 48, which is the Placer Countywide Active Transportation Plan, expenses have been removed as the project is finishing in this current fiscal year. Work element 43, which is the I-80 aux lanes, since the bulk of those expenditures are in this current fiscal year, there is a reduction in those expenditures as well, as we are down to closeout costs on that. And work element 33, the zero emission infrastructure plan, costs were reduced as the grant winds down in the 26-27 fiscal year. On the revenue side, I already mentioned that the LTF is flat at this time. It'll be adjusted once we have the preliminary allocations for that. And the expenditure changes have been adjusted to reflect all these the adjustments in the work elements. Indirect cost has increased to close to 55% for next year, and that has to do with how the allocation is calculated. It's a percentage of our operating cost and our direct salaries. So we're down to FTE, so that increased the percentage that will be going towards indirect costs. And this is just a look at the budget as it compares to the current year's Amendment 1. We have a balanced budget. And here's a look at our revenues. We receive our revenues in several different sources. And I was going to drill into the other pie, it's a big pie, and it just says other, so I thought I'd show you what that consists of. So you can see the other, the largest portion of it is for the South Placer Transportation Authority. We also have the Western Placer Consolidated Transportation Services Agency, some matches for our grants from our jurisdictions, and some ALUC fees and interest. Next slide. And then to drill down into that largest, the 2.7 million Sparta, those are approved, Sparta-approved projects, and that I'm not going to go into each one of them, but those are the different work elements that are Sparta-related or a portion is paid through Sparta. And finally is a look at our expenditures. 91% are going to direct work element costs, and the remaining 9% is for operating costs. And with that, unless there's any questions, it concludes my presentation.
Okay, board members, questions? Did you want to comment, Amanda?
Yeah, when I was going through the packet, I just saw the advocacy efforts that you'll be focusing on cap to cap, and I just wanted to say thank you so much. If I'll just be more optimistic when this happens, this will be a win for small cities and towns who struggle in this area. So I just want to thank you again for making that a matter of priority.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So despite sitting next to my colleague from the city next to me, who's a genius at budgeting and forecasting, I need to drill down and understand indirect costs. I think of them as overhead costs. Am I thinking of that correctly? And then with this chart, you have 9% indirect, so help me.
9% indirect.
So indirect was 55.52.
Correct. For next.
So what is indirect? What
So
three
it's our
categories of
operating
indirect?
costs, and it gets allocated based on salaries and fringe to all of the work elements.
Okay,
It's a
so keeping the lights on, paying the rent,
Correct.
not if Matt works on a project that's an indirect cost.
Matt, yeah, if Matt's working directly on a work element, that's considered a direct cost.
Okay. All
If
right.
I'm doing
How'd I do?
processing payroll, it would be indirect as it,
Billable and non-billables.
correct.
And so, all right, thanks. I won't belabor that.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, come back. Anyone in the public? Before I forget. No one here. Okay, good. I'll bring it back for a motion.
I'll move approval of the budget and work plan.
Second?
Okay, Dowden Calvio made the motion, and I'm going to give Brown the second. Okay, we're going to move on to,
Whoa, how did we get a second over there? I heard seconds over there.
I know, he was just a
The seconds all
fraction.
around.
He was just barely a fraction.
I always like a second helping.
Was the right side is my good
You're just
ear.
on the wrong side of the dais, that's all.
Okay, we're going to move on to item I, Placer Sacramento
Did we
Gateway
take a
Plan.
vote, though?
Yeah,
We had a motion and a second, but
No vote.
no vote.
All those in favor, please say aye. You're confusing me now. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, nobody opposed? You sure? Motion carries.
we're rowdy today.
Okay, we're gonna move on to item I, please. Placer Sacramento Gateway Plan Update, Consultant Contract Award. David?
Okay. Good morning, members of the board.
Good morning.
David Melko here. So we have a brief PowerPoint presentation that summarizes the staff report and what we plan to accomplish for this fiscal year and next fiscal year. So we're asking the board to authorize the executive director to execute 3 agreements. The first is a master agreement between us and Jacobs Consulting. That's to not exceed $500,000. Likewise, then we issue a letter of task agreement with the specific scope of work that they will accomplish, and that also is between us and Jacobs for $500,000. And then lastly, we have a cooperative agreement. It's our first between PCTPA and the Sacramento Transportation Authority, and each of us will provide the matching funds to the Caltrans grant that we were awarded last July, and so that's to the tune of $65,000. And the STA board has authorized their executive director and attorney to execute the agreement, so it's already half executed, so to speak, within the staff report. And we took all this to our technical advisory committee, and they all concurred with these recommendations, and so passed that along. And then we do have Jacobs Consulting here. Luke McNeil-Caird is the project manager, and so we're going to provide you a brief informational presentation with respect to the Gateway Plan update. We thought that would be helpful because as you look at the schedule that Luke shares, it is a fast track process because our aim is to be able to position ourselves to be able to submit a grant for the Solutions for Congested Corridor program, which requires a corridor plan. We need to submit that in November of this year. So that means we will be back to this board in the summer, probably August, with a draft plan. And then we will also then be back to this board in October, asking you to accept the plan. And likewise, we will do that with SACOG, because they'll be a partner in this effort, as well as the Sacramento Transportation Authority. So with that, I will provide sort of a tag team here. I've got the next slide, and then thereafter, Luke has about 3 or 4 slides. So just for background, because the last time we did the Sacramento Placer Gateway Plan was back in 2020, and so this is a requirement of the California Transportation Commission. They have guidelines, and this corridor plan requirement is for the SB1 programs. And there are 2 SB1 programs, Solutions for Congested Corridors, as well as Trade Corridor Enhancement Program. And so we developed the Gateway Plan during 2019, 2020, and then we've applied for what the CTC call our cycles. So there was a cycle 2, cycle 3, cycle 4. And we were successful in cycle 2 to the tune of $133.4 million. Now that was an award that was spread amongst a number of agencies within the corridor. So PCTPA benefited because we had money for the Interstate Aux Lanes project for both the westbound and eastbound segments. Likewise, Roseville received money for the Dry Creek Greenway plan project, and for the Rapid Link bus that's within the State Route 65 corridor. And likewise, there was Citrus Heights and Sacramento Regional Transit. So it was a truly cooperative effort. We came back for the cycle 3, and at that point in time, the state emphasis was on transit and rail projects, and so we were awarded $50 million, $25 million for the Capitol Corridor as part of the third track project, and $25 million towards the Sacramento Valley Station. And that particular project was to improve the alignment of the light rail that would bring passengers to the Capitol Corridor train and vice versa, so it would make it smoother transition between the two train systems. And so at this point, the Gateway Plan is nearing the end of its shelf life. The CTC recommends that you need to update these plans every 4 years when you're in a non-attainment area, and unfortunately, we're in a non-attainment area. So we're coming to the end of the current Gateway Plan, and so we need to do an update. And so, as I mentioned, the proposed schedule calls for completion by October of this year so that we can position ourselves for a solutions application in November of this year. And with that, I will turn it over to Luke, and then he will kind of walk through the more specific steps of what we propose to do here.
Morning, Chair Jones, members of the board. It's very nice to be back in a familiar place. I used to sit in that chair where Jody is for about 9 years. But as David mentioned, I'm Luke McNeil-Carrot. I'm with Jacobs, and I'm will be the consultant project manager for this plan update. One thing, working in the Sacramento region for about 25 years, we love acronyms and we love agencies. There's lots of them. And this kind of just gives you a general overview of the 6-county region and all the transportation agencies that cover those 6 counties. And we've got a lot of corridors in this county, a lot of freeways, a lot of highways. And since SB 1, Senate Bill 1 passed in 2017, all these different agencies have been developing corridor plans. You can see we pretty much covered every freeway in the Sacramento region along with some state routes. But specifically today, we're focused on the dark blue line there in the center. And so the Placer-Sacramento Gateway Plan was one of the first corridor plans in the 6-county region. And it covers State Route 65 from Lincoln down to Rockland, Roseville, and then from Auburn on Interstate 80 down to Sacramento. And so this is the corridor and the projects that we'll be looking at as part of this plan update. And the reason we're here is because of money. You know, back in 2017 when Senate Bill 1 passed, there was 2 significant programs that were competitive statewide, and that's the Solutions for Congested Corridors program, $500 million available every 2 years. And then we have the Trade Corridor Enhancement Program, and that's $1 billion available every 2 years. And you can see on the slide that the projects that we're trying to implement for the 2026 call for projects are these projects that are going to construction in 2027 through 2029. So we have been successful. David highlighted a couple things. In general, we've secured, as a region, as a 6-county region, we've secured around $100 million every 2 years. And in 2018, that was the US 50 widening that's going on right now. That's expected to be completed this year between Watt Avenue and Interstate 5. In 2020, David highlighted it. The main thing that came out of that, $130 million, was the IED auxiliary lanes. So the 5th lane from Douglas to Riverside and the 4th lane from SR 65 to Rockland Road on Interstate 80, a significant project for the Sacramento region. And then David mentioned in 2022, it was much more focused on rail and transit, again, successful. And then in 2024, Yolo County was successful in getting funding to widen the causeway on Interstate 80. And you see that green bar there in 2024. So back in 2020 when we started this, there was 14 agencies involved. We've added a 15th agency, that's number 14 on your slide. Sacramento Transportation Authority is being added to the group of agencies that will decide what projects to include in the plan. We'll be looking at which projects have been completed, which projects we need to keep in there, and then which projects we need to add. And we'll be working, as David mentioned, with SACOG, the Sacramento Area Council of Governments, Caltrans District 3, and Sacramento Transportation Authority, along with PCTPA, to figure out what these projects are. And then the rest of the agencies on the slide here, there are implementing agencies. So they're the ones that are going to take the projects and actually take them to construction. So we'll be working closely with them to figure out what their priorities are, what their schedules are, and which projects are ready to go to construction. Here's the plan as the schedule. We're starting here in January of 2026. We'll spend the next several months looking at what the state criteria is and figuring out what those projects are based on that criteria. Then we'll be back to you in August with a draft plan that happens to be the same time that the California Transportation Commission will do a call for projects for these two major programs. And then we'll come back in October with a final plan, and at that point that'll set us up to submit an application in November of 2026. And I'll turn it back over to David.
And at this point, we have three actions that we've requested of you, the three agreements, two of them authorizing with the consultant agreements, the master agreement and the letter of task agreement, and then as well as authorizing the executive director to execute the cooperative agreement with STA. And with that, we're here to answer any questions that the board may have.
Okay, board members, questions? No, I'm looking at this slide. And my question is, it says you're going to enable people to drive less. How are we going to do that? With mass transit or what?
Well, so those are the strategic goals that were outlined in various state documents. And so, and one of the things that we are quite certain will happen with the update of the corridor guidelines by the CTC is to have projects that are VMT neutral, vehicle miles traveled neutral. So that's tough,
Yeah.
to accomplish.
It's a goal, not a requirement.
That's right.
Well, it
It's a
will,
requirement to set the goal, right?
No.
there's a goal, and then there will be a requirement to look at and to have a suite of projects that are VMT neutral. It's a suite of projects. So you could have some projects that have VMT and others that offset that. So the enable the people to drive less, I would imagine, is the state's emphasis on encouraging active transportation and transit, rail transit. And so we have rail transit in this corridor. There's SAC-RT, there's Capitol Corridor. We have active transportation projects. Roseville has done the Greenway project, Dry Creek Greenway project, and there are other active transportation projects. So we will just have to take those into account when we develop the update to the plan. So that's just one of many goals. Improve air quality. We're going to need to look at that, and all the projects are going to have to somehow, reduce emissions. They're going to have to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and I could see a little bit of hesitation on certain board members, but we did accomplish this the last time around with the plan. And we were able to go through that and package a set of projects. We weren't necessarily VMT neutral the last time around. That wasn't a requirement. So this time it'll be a little bit tougher, but we will be able to.
Yeah, and I'll jump in here really quick, Chair Jones. You got a keen eye for that. And the truth is we're at a point where statewide, a lot of the population and a lot of the state is at a place where they are looking to invest in trails and transit and things like that. And it is not really in vogue right now to widen highway capacity. And that's just where we sit in a place like Placer. We're unique in the fact that we are one of those few counties still growing. And so part of this gets into our advocacy and our education about the sort of traditional infrastructure a place like Placer still needs. So at the end of the day, as Luke and the consultant team work through all of the projects, we will get to a point where we will have a list of projects. We will then bundle them into an application to actually go seek the money. And it's very highly likely that that bundle of projects will do its very best to be VMT neutral. So we will look at working to see, this is hypothetically, but by way of example, can we look to get SAC-RT more light rail vehicles that they need to update their light rail vehicles, while we're also looking to modernize the Rockland Road interchange so it operationally works, so it has new bicycle pedestrian features, and it really isn't trying to add more capacity to the roadways. So, when you talk to the staffers at CTC, this is a tough place for them because this is under a program that's meant to reduce congestion, but based on where the direction is coming out of the state and the folks above them and the policy direction that as staff they have to implement, they have to reduce congestion without increasing VMT. So we're in this really tough place right now, and as David said, that is a goal that comes to us from the state, and we'll work within that. So when we have a package of projects, those are in alignment with the goals and objectives of those people reviewing our funding package.
Right, but what I see in the future is, I don't believe Placer County wants RT coming out here to Placer County. Not many people do. Yeah, the light rail. So I don't know how that's gonna work out. And the other thing too is, didn't Bruce take the money away from our rail going from Sacramento up this way?
Yeah, he took it all away. No.
Not Bruce.
You mean
but
the capital.
Bruce wouldn't know because
But-
he's
but-
the city of Roseville.
Yeah, and David mentioned this in his opening, and you will see this bus on display tomorrow out at the fairgrounds, that Roseville is doing Rapid Link, on behalf of the area, Roseville Transit, and Rapid Link was something that, we secured funding for, and that'll run down State Road 65, right? It'll swing by the hospitals and go to the Watt I-80 SAC-RT station. We don't envision a future where there is light rail moving east of there. One, there's probably not the ridership. Two, it's just unaffordable. So I think what we see as Southwest Placer continues to grow out is some sort of rapid bus system like a Rapid Link that has a 3-year pilot will be our solution. We'll highlight that in our conversation with CTC tomorrow. We'll show them that all-electric, zero-emission vehicle bus. So that is how we, in a suburban sort of framework, try to do our very best to be VMT neutral.
Oh, sorry, I was just being kind of smart that the electric bus doesn't work.
Oh, yeah.
It's on?
It's-
Sorry, turn up your hearing aid, sir.
Yeah.
I was at, I go to all these different meetings, first 5, whatever it is, and all I hear at the end of the day is we want better transportation. We want not better transportation, we want easier transportation to get from point A to point B. The voucher program, I think, is great for people to use. I don't think it's advertised enough. But as I drive 500 to 600 miles a month just in Placer County, and I pass bus after bus after bus that 99% of the time, they are 99% empty. I know this is all coming from the state, who has unicorn dreams and they're clueless as all the day is long, that electric buses are going to solve our problems, and you're not going to force people out of their car. But what I think we can do, from what I see when I met people with probation yesterday, and to get their people that are on probation to come to their appointments, it's hard for them to go catch the bus. It's hard for them to go wait for the bus. Nobody has that kind of time. So if we had our, I guess, Placer County Uber system,
On demand.
on demand, and it was used more rapidly or advertised for people, because a lot of people don't know. Like, I told people about it yesterday, and I've told people in other meetings, like, we have that, we didn't know. So it's great that they ask for all this, and this is their pie in the sky, that they're gonna go win the lottery by trying to get people out of their cars. It's never gonna work. This study's been going on since 1980, and when I was growing up in the Bay Area, I saw the same thing. Oh, we're gonna make BART. Well, now we still have more cars. People like to drive by themselves. It's the only time people have peace for themselves, before and after work. But I think to get the people who need to use a transportation system, I don't know, take that bus driver and go give them a small van to move people. I think it's gonna be quicker, easier. The people I see at First Five, their biggest complaint is, I have to get my kid to the dentist. We only can afford one car. My husband has to take it to work, and now I got to figure out how to get there. And so, again, I was at the mall the other day. I saw 4 of our buses, 1 of Roseville buses, and I saw 5 people, and they were just the drivers.
Yeah.
And so for me, looking at that, and I have citizens come to me like, this is a waste. It seems like it's a waste. We don't want to take the bus. We have to wait for a bus. The bus to me seems archaic. And now they're forcing us to go buy electric buses that don't work in Tahoe because it's too cold. So I don't know. I think they need to come up with a better plan if they want us to make it work. And if we had to go put light rail in, we don't even have the space to put a third lane in. Let light rail in the middle of an intersection. I mean, a meridian. So I don't know. It's great that they gave us all this, but their expectations are higher than reality. And for me, we need to do something for our own people here. And how we implement it, how we get the money. I'm all in favor of going after the money, but again, some of these programs are not working.
I absolutely understand your comments, and I think the data that we have and collect and monitor reflects everything that you're saying, right? Our mode split, when we look at transit, is under 1%. At the same time, we provided almost 800,000 transit trips last year, and those are mostly for folks who are transit dependent. They're not what you would call premium riders who are choosing to go into the Bay Area and leave their Tesla charging in their 2-car garage at home. Both of our, I should say all 3 of our providers, whether it's Auburn, Roseville, or the county, do a phenomenal job, right? You know, Mike goes through the unmet transit needs survey every year. We don't see that there's a lot of clamoring and there's a lot of things that we're not doing well. So if you look at sort of what our transit providers are providing and what the citizens really need, we're doing a very good job of that. And if you look at our, our auto trip times that we talked about when we did our RTP adoption last December, our commute times are averaging 28.5 minutes, which is a performance metric I go by. The state of California averages 29.2, so we're keeping our commute times down. So I think your sort of inclination and your reactions are absolutely right. The fact of the matter is there's certain buckets of money, whether they're federal dollars or state dollars, that come with certain strings, or when it gets to FTA money, they're not going to allow you to take that bus money and then spend it on roadways, regardless what we locally would love to do. And that leads to sort of the product mix that we have. If we bring it back to this specific conversation around SB1 funding, and solutions specifically, as Luke said, there's those 2 buckets, solutions under SB1. This is what they prioritize. And last cycle, there were 23 applications statewide. They funded 7, we ranked 9th. And when we did our debrief, the feedback we got back from staff appropriately was like, you were really good, they were very complimentary, but the nexus to the program wasn't as strong as our competition. And I don't remember the exact number, but I think it was 5 of those 7s all had transit components, inside of their corridor plan. So my point is, while that's absolutely right, we need to take the traditional infrastructure projects that we want to fund here in Placer and bundle them with projects that the CTC values, and that's how we'll get funding.
If you have to have money, if they're going to give you money only for buses, not roads, can we implement more door-to-door type buses that instead of having?
Our goal is to have a product mix in our application where there is money for roads, but largely operational money for things like the Rockland Road interchange, down the road something like Horseshoe Bar when it gets construction ready, things like that, right? So quite frankly, if you look at I-80 and all of the work that we're wrapping up now, I-80 is in really good shape. And in fact, if we were going to widen it any more, all we would do is rush people to the split at Business 80 quicker and they'd sit. Right. So if you look at I-80 through our community, there's things that we can do operationally. We certainly have operational problems at 8065, but that corridor is doing pretty good. So we're going to look to tweak it and enhance it over time.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with the commute time. It's expected, right? The more houses we approve, the more people move here. They all come with cars, and I've had this conversation many times with parents, and they're like, "Oh, it takes me forever to get my kids to school." And I'm like, "Well, how many kids do you have?" 4. And I said, "Well, when they drive, don't give them a driver's license, and we'll take 4 cars off the road." And I'm like, "No, thank you. I'll sit at the stoplight." So that has to come with it. It's a given that that's going to happen. I think what I'm looking at is more of the people who don't have those cars and don't have the time to get, or to even have means to walk 3 or 4 blocks to get to the bus stop.
Yeah.
Those are the people that I've been interacting with probably for the last 6 months. And I guess,
I-
I know it's a small percentage, and I know that the buses do well for what they do.
Yeah.
But it's frustrating when I see it and people come to me and go, I see empty buses, can I just get like a door-to-door deal so I can go from here to the dentist or here to wherever? So
Yeah.
that's just the ask I've been hearing.
I second your
Understood.
thoughts, because I know people are very frustrated with the whole, why are we forced to spend money on things we don't want? So I completely agree with where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Separate from my other comment I'm waiting on.
Okay, I'm
Yeah, I
going
mean,
to
if
call
we
on
could-
Director Calvio next.
Yes, so thank you very much. I
That's
just
you.
wanted to let you know that Auburn has been very successful with its on-demand transit. And actually, we have a great ridership, and it is just like an Uber system. And it's something we've had in play for quite a while now. And we have a couple of Tesla cars that we purchased through a grant, and we also have an electric bus. And it's very successful. And so the model does work on that end, on demand. And also, I just wanted to say, I really appreciate, we're having to work within the confines of the state. They're the ones that hold the purse strings. And so this is really just a plan. And we have to check the boxes in order to get the money. And so I appreciate that we have to go through this process. It can be a frustrating one. Light rail obviously doesn't work here. That's not something we'd ever have on the books. But, thank you for at least going through the process, checking the boxes, and moving us forward. And like I said, on-demand has been phenomenal for us in Auburn. Our ridership has really increased substantially. And across the board, not just seniors. We have students that use it, and, my husband even uses it, so.
Yeah, I
thank
believe
you.
it. I mean, there's times that I would use it, because if my car is getting serviced and I need a ride and I don't have a ride, I call Uber if I have to, or whoever,
I
but
have
I'd
a
rather
couple
use
of
our
them.
own transportation system, but
Okay, Anthony, I've got some other directors.
no, they can't talk.
Director Burris, please.
Oh, no worries. So, I had a quick question I was hoping we could expand on a little bit. So the boundaries, in theory, they make sense for, where the cutoff is just east of Auburn, but I am wondering what opportunity exists to potentially expand that boundary. We have talked about increasing Capitol Corridor. When you get further east in Placer County, you do tend to see a lot of people who rely on lengthy commute in order to have, feasible work. That's definitely the reality for Colfax. I don't know a lot of people who, sustain their families on jobs that are very local to us at all.
Right.
And so seeing some expansion with Capitol Corridor there would be immensely helpful for our community. And I know fits well into the intent of this plan, especially because a lot of our folks, even though we're just east of that boundary, we're all crossing directly into that corridor on a daily basis. So, what are your thoughts on the potential for seeing that boundary expand at any point?
Yeah, go ahead. David?
So, it's a good comment. The map that we showed is the current corridor plan and the corridor plan boundaries. We're going to update it. We have a scope of work, and one of the scope of work items is for them to re-examine the corridor boundaries, because there was some comments in our last application about some of the project fits, particularly as we got down into the central business district of City of Sacramento. But likewise, there's always the opportunity, if there are projects east of Bell Road, Bowman area, then, we certainly can look at that. Capitol Corridor expansion, we're pretty much going to have to rely upon Capitol Corridor and their vision planning efforts. So right now, third track is the priority. And that has an incomplete funding plan at this point. And so we need to focus on how we can help them, secure more funding to achieve that. And that type of expansion is going to be incremental based upon their various planning efforts. But certainly we can look at projects east of Colfax, or east of Auburn, excuse me. So,
Okay.
yeah.
No, that's very helpful, because I know that was touched on, that there was that opportunity there, and I think that there's definitely some interest to see if there's anything we can bring into that can
Yeah.
help with that portfolio mix. So I would definitely be interested in following up with staff to maybe get in the weeds and make sure I understand appropriately. Thank you.
And a quick kick-in on that, just so you know, David and I attend a monthly senior staff meeting with Capital Corridor every month. We talk to Rob Paget every month, and of course, two of our board members, one is actually the director this year, or the chair? The chair.
There.
And
Congratulations.
he's the director. So we do have constant conversation with them about this, and of course, they're running into certain, environmental issues with their current, sort of suite of projects, but we'll keep talking to them.
Okay.
No worries, and I know we have other projects I have on the
Yeah.
mind aside from just that, but that was sort of the crown jewel item, so,
Yeah.
thank you.
We're going to have to start limiting comments to 3 minutes. Anyway, I have either Bruce, is Howdeshelt, or Cortez. I have a light on.
It was not me, it was Bruce.
Okay.
So, picking up on the chair and Mr. DiMatteis's comments, Dave and Luke, in part of this analysis, will you look at, will there be an examination of increasing transit? I know that the buses that come out of that hub by Sunsplash, either the counties or the cities that go to downtown Sacramento, often are they're at capacity.
Those are packed.
So,
Those are packed, going downtown.
the grant programs that we apply for, the projects have to be construction ready. Okay, so, and then the shelf life of this plan is going to be another 4 years. So you're looking at a plan that probably, is like 27 to 31, in terms of time frame. So we're going to be looking at projects that are sort of ready to go, ready to list. And so like on transit projects, we're going to look at the operator's short-range transit plans and what they have in the mix. And then we're going to have to make sure that those projects have a benefit to 80 corridor or a benefit to 65 corridor. So nothing against like dial-a-ride or an Uber-type service that might serve a local geography, but we have to, as Matt had indicated, we have to show a nexus. That was one of our, I guess, drawbacks on our last application. We had a couple of projects that didn't have a nexus to 65 and the 80 corridor. And so that knocked us down a couple of points and we didn't get funded. And so we need to have a nexus. And so, like for Colfax, there's got to be a nexus to 80 somehow to, that helps improve 80, whether it's for recreational or it's, tourism or
Sure,
for
yeah.
commuter. Yeah. So that's, so we'll look at transit, but we have to look at it within the context of their approved plans.
And I just want to say that the genius of this plan is that it is 2 counties, Sacramento and Placer. So we in Placer really do benefit from all of the projects that are going on in Sacramento. Those help reduce our overall VMT when we submit these applications. When Matt mentions light rail, we're not talking about extending light rail to Placer County. We're talking about giving Henry Lee 6 new light rail low floor vehicles to replace on the blue line so people can drive down to Watt, get on light rail and go into Sacramento. And so that benefits us because that's a VMT reducing project, which allows us to then do interchanges and other operational improvements here in Placer County. So it is a dual benefit of having the 2 counties in this corridor plan. And then secondly, SACOG just went through updating their metropolitan transportation plan. So we're able to hit the ground running here because all these agencies in the 2 counties have already gone through a very thorough process of identifying which projects are ready for construction in the next 4 years. So we're going to start with that MTP list and then see if there's things we need to add. But we've kind of identified the transit projects that are going to be ready to go to construction in the next 4 years.
Great, thanks. And just really briefly, I know we're up against it for this item, but what a comprehensive submittal. And I think most of our package today is this item, all right? So thanks for that comprehensive, all the information you provided. I'm just going to point out, and this is not a gotcha, but as I was just shuffling through it on performance task 4, you have 3D simulation video. It says working with ST. I think there's an A missing there. Because I looked for a consultant.
Oh, it's just to clarify, you didn't get us, Bruce, so I'll clarify for you. ST is the strategy team. So on that 15 agency slide, there was 4 that were
Glad
highlighted.
I asked the question.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm done.
Okay, thank you. I hate to open up a can of worms, but I do have another question on number, on number 3, reduce serious injuries and fatalities. I'd like to know how we're going to do that, because I could use some advice on Douglas Boulevard and Eureka.
I would just start by saying this is a global goal that the state is bringing forward. How we actually achieve number 3 will depend on the specific project. It could be operational improvements that reduce crashes for automobiles. It could be the provision of better pedestrian facilities or bicycle pedestrian facilities to segregate those folks who are engaged in active transportation outside of the corridor. So there's a number of ways we can get at 3. It'll depend on the specific project as to how we achieve that.
Okay, thank you.
And I did have a follow-up question to that, I do apologize. So on that note, when we're talking about the total projects that we're incorporating in the plan, not every project necessarily needs to have a high dollar amount to at least contribute to the overall plan and the nexus, correct? So if part of our plan and part of our projects includes certain ordinances or specific procedural or administrative level changes to how we are operating our portion of the corridor, can that be included in the plan as a potential plus without requiring an expenditure necessarily towards an infrastructure project, if it's tied to the other infrastructure projects?
Well, so once again, the grants that we're going for are construction dollars.
Right.
So that can be considered, I guess, in the local match equation. Technically, there's no match requirement, but if you have match, it positions yourselves more favorably, against your competition. There are some issues that we would have to look at with respect to. There's one thing, there's match when it's a capital match, but when it's sort of an operational, procedural type match. So that's where it's going to, there's some crafting that has to be done in terms of how, that's
And I'll follow up with
portrayed.
staff offline, because
Yeah.
I don't think I'm articulating myself very well right here at this moment, but I do have a couple ideas that would cost very little and potentially benefit a lot.
Okay, yeah, I'm not exactly tracking what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I'll follow up offline.
Okay.
Just one comment. So if, for example, the city had an ordinance that was like a trip reduction ordinance, okay? So, that will lead to a variety of, benefits. And we certainly would highlight that. Right. And that would, definitely, come into play in the application as something that's positive, that city or other cities did. So I don't know whether or not we could take, a benefit in terms of dollars, but certainly we could, take advantage of the fact that, you're proactively doing something in that regard.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, last comment on this item, I would point out and thank staff for including a robust information about Capitol Corridor in our packet today. And you can see ridership's up, and some of the busiest, if I remember correctly, you remember better than I do, some of the busiest routes are from here to Davis, so.
All right, thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. Thank you so much for your presentation, appreciate it, and answering all of our questions.
Do we have to approve something?
We need action.
Should we
Okay.
actually approve something?
All righty, so we have to have any public comment? Oh.
Mr. Eklund, you're free to speak.
Thank you very much. I've prepared some comments, but I'm not even going to go into them because there's so much information here that I think is completely being bypassed in regards to transit. The one thing I will mention is, in the scope, is that there are 18 hours allocated to transit in the scope of work, and 18 hours to ped bike analysis. That's totally inadequate. That's 0.9% of the overall hours. It's ridiculous. What has to be done is is the people working in those fields have to know what's going on in the rest so that something can get integrated at the end. The problem with the existing Rapid Link, it was never planned as part of the COI process. It is totally adequate. It's creating negative impacts on both local routes and commuter routes in Roseville and in PCT, and nobody recognizes them. You're all defending a project that's terrible. And just to bring a simple anecdote, in the past executive director, I met with him several times. He told me that he would never put a bus route in a commuter bus route, or a bus stop, that route in Rockland. Never. He also said he would never make any change to the plan as it was approved, and said that Caltrans wouldn't allow it. That's crazy. Caltrans is interested in successes. You don't maintain something that is having problems. It will have problems, and PCTPA right now is saying that Roseville is required to maintain that program for 3 years, and it will wholly be responsible with its own resources to continue the project afterwards. That's crazy. It's unfair and unsustainable to have a program like that. Unsustainable. And SACOG is requiring, if you're going to do anything that's regional, there has to be an administrative arrangement where there's accountability, some kind of thing that manages the whole project. Can't depend on coordination and transfers. In the future, you're going to have a hard, PCTPA has to do something. And it shows up in all documents, the old master plan, all of the BRT plans, they say you need an alternative arrangement. There's about 5 options. I've said it several times, nobody listens. And it's a very simple thing to do, but there has to be an institutional element in this plan. Okay, the other thing, you're really talking about commuter service. That's where the VTM is. Forget about all the dial-a-ride and even local stuff. There's about 5 things that can be immediately done to improve commuter ridership. Right now, there's 100,000 people in the study area.
Can you please finish up your
Excuse me, that doesn't have commuter service. 50,000 in West Rockland, no commuter service. Lincoln, no commuter service. It probably will get in the next plan, but there will be nothing for the next 8 years in West Rockland. The short-range transit plan, in fact, cuts commuter service.
Thank you. You have to finish up your comments, please.
1 bus a day for Rockland.
Thank you for your comments.
There's little things that can be done if somebody would just look at all the little things. And some of the, it's demographics.
I'm sorry, but you're going to have to complete your comments.
Sorry, but it's commuters. Look, it's commuters.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for your comments. Would you care to tackle that?
Okay.
I'll take it.
Okay.
There will be public outreach as part of this
Yeah,
process.
there will definitely be public
Eklund's
outreach.
comments,
and
probably.
And Mr. Eklund will be invited, to weigh in during the public outreach effort. And I just want to remind, we're working with your jurisdictions on projects that you all have developed and are seek funding. And so, as I mentioned, the grant programs are construction funding. And so these are projects that have to be ready to list, ready to deliver. And so we're not going to do a lot, unfortunately, of independent, creative, new sort of planning analysis. The idea here is to bring together projects that can be bundled and that can work effectively with these 2 grant programs so that we can get funding to build these projects. And so the creativity in this is to be able to put together a suite of projects that will be VMT neutral to the extent that we can, and that can pass tests that the CTC has in terms of these grant programs. And so I just want to, we're working with already projects that have, as Luke had mentioned, have gone through the MTP process, the RTP process. Your teams have done the environmental, the PS&E, the design and stuff. So they're all ready. And so, we're not going to like go back, to the beginning and start new. So
Okay. Matt,
hopefully
would you like
that it clarifies.
Good, thank you. Matt, would you like to? Yes, please.
Oh, I was just going to, this is one effort that this organization takes on, but we also, recently put a lot of effort into an active transportation plan, and there's a lot of effort that goes into short-range and long-range transit plans that cover a lot of these other topics that were just brought up in the public comment, but this isn't necessarily the right document or effort for that. This is one effort that's complementary to other efforts that this organization is undertaking.
No, yeah, I appreciate the clarification. That's exactly right, and I think that's what David was getting at. This is specifically about I-80 and State Road 65. We adopted a regional transportation plan last year, had a lot of transit projects in it. Mike has gone through the short-range transit plan, the operational analysis, the unmet transit needs studies. So as David has said, the purpose of this is not to reevaluate and creatively look at, everything. It's to take the projects that have a very solid nexus to I-80 and State Road 65, bundle them with our partner agencies to get ready for funding applications so we can bring home more revenue to get, to build things, as David has already said, that's ready, ready to list right now. Yeah, thank you, Dave. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that. Seeing no other questions, and I guess I'll bring it back to.
approve the item.
Okay. Motion by Haudashelt, second by Cortez. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, we're going to move on to the Executive Director's report.
Who's got the clicker? All right, thank you.
And also, too, I forgot, thank you for your.
Really quickly, if your memory serves, what you're seeing up here looks a lot like what you saw in December. And the reason for that is it's been about 2 months. And while there's a few new items on the Executive Director's report here, I wanted to really tee this up for this calendar year and sort of let you know these are the high priorities, not that we don't have more, but these are the sort of top line priorities that we are focused on as an agency for 2026. And they kind of go in order of money, projects, and other, right? And so starting with the money, with grant activity, we're still waiting to hear about our RIA funding. I talked to the RIA office last week. I think all the decisions have been made. They're waiting on the administration. We'll find out about that $2 million. We're working towards that build grant. We're actively working right now for the Rockland Road interchange. That'll be due in February. That's to secure $20 or $25 million of federal dollars. Solutions for Congested Corridor Program Cycle 5 in the fall. This dovetails into the presentation and all the conversation we just had. Coming out of that updated gateway plan and everything else, this is where we will go seek that $25 to $40 million in the fall, likely for the Rockland Road interchange and other projects to be defined, potentially Bell Road or others that absolutely are ready to list and absolutely have a nexus. So this bullet speaks to all of the planning work that David and Luke were just talking about. Mike is leading our effort with SACOG on the STBG and CMAQ funding. We're well ahead, I would say, of the other jurisdictions in the six-county region for the federal six-county funding round. So we've had a few meetings. We're going to have a couple of more. We'll probably, by the March board meeting, bring you a list of projects to approve. We'll go then work with SACOG and essentially say, this is what we need. And again, our goal is to bring 100 to 110% back of what we should be getting based on our size. Small city funding legislation that you talked about, I just was texting with Mark to see if we had any more updates. We are working with Assembly Member Hadwick. She's looking for other authors. We've also talked with CalCog, the League of Big Cities. We want to make sure that as we get into the legislative session, we're offensively communicating with folks who might not want us to do this as to why this is a rounding error. This is sort of decimal dust if you're Los Angeles. We know places like LA have big needs, but we want to ensure and talk to them offensively to make sure they don't put up a big fuss when we float this assembly bill. And that's to get that 200,000, which will affect about 40 municipalities across the state in our area, help out Loomis and Colfax.
What's the size, the population size for small city?
There isn't going to be it's got to be less than, small city is a term of art. We're not defining it in the bill. What we're saying is any municipality in the state of California should get a floor of $200,000 regardless of their size. Okay. The question in there would be, what is the break-even point? To give you an idea, Loomis right now, last year as a town, got about 154,000, and your population right now is?
It's like a little less than 7,000.
Right, so once you all are just slightly over that 200, so it really won't help Auburn. Yeah. But there is no definition of small city in the bill, just the REMRA floor of 200,000.
Okay, that effectively then affects this.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the money part of the slide. Moving into State Road 65, Phase 1. David is our new project manager on that. We're working quickly on getting that done and all the final design done and ready to list by the end of '26 to start construction in the spring of '27. That is the money that was funded with Sparta and the federal build grant. We're also working on the express toll lane. Won't spend too much time on that one. You know what's going on there. We are getting close to an early date in early March for our 8065 interchange value engineering workshop. Again, remember, this is part of that pivot. We don't have a sales tax measure. We don't have all of the money in the world. What are these small things we can do in chunks of 20, 25, $50 million to improve 8065 like we're thinking about 65? That sort of work may find its way into the gateway plan. We just had a lengthy conversation about, but we'll do that workshop in early March. Big reminder, tomorrow we're hosting the California Transportation Commission at the grounds. We will also have a tour, and just a second on this, we're going to have a tour in the morning at 10 a.m. with CTC commissioners, Caltrans folks, and CT staff to take them over and show them the Rockland Road interchange, right? So what you heard from David and Luke about the technical analysis and everything else to get ready, this is part of that same thing. We're going to begin our advocacy effort, and we're going to have Willie Duncan from Sierra College and Ali Zimmerman, the city manager, and we want to show these folks from San Francisco and Orange County and Los Angeles what Rockland is, what that community is, why we need this. So not necessarily about the ramp's going to go here and it's going to go there, but sort of tell them the story about what Rockland is and how this interchange project will be of a community benefit and how it'll get to those 3 or 4 statewide goals you asked about on the previous slide. So our year advocacy campaign, if you will, with CTC starts tomorrow. Director Broadway, I don't know if you want to chime in on this one as far as the SPEED Act. The SPEED Act has gone through the House. It was supported by Assemblymember Kiley. I believe it's currently sitting in the Senate. And essentially what this is to mainstream NEPA and basically in the federal environmental process. And in a conversation with Director Broadway between last meeting and this one, he would like us to send letters of support to Senators Schiff and Padilla. We have those letters drafted, and they would be by my signature, but we wanted to bring this forward to the board we don't necessarily need action, but just wanted to see nodding heads and concurrence before we go ahead and send these letters in support of the SPEED Act. I'm getting a thumbs up. Director Broadway, I don't know if you'd like to add.
Yeah, just to create some additional clarity, so what the SPEED Act does, which was passed by the House in December, it basically eliminates some of the duplication that's occurring. As we're all very familiar with the CEQA requirements, basically with NEPA and CEQA, you're doing the same thing, but you're doing it twice. Additionally, with NEPA, there are not a lot of guardrails today regarding the time frame for NEPA. This will put a 60-day limit on that, so it helps, again, put some guardrails on it, and then it also limits any type of legal actions. I mean, there are a lot of benefits to this. The House has passed it. We need support from the Senate. Right now, there's concern in the Senate regarding the environmental piece, but I think that's due to some limitations on understanding of what this actually does, because it doesn't eliminate the reviews and the protections on the environmental side. It enhances our ability to get these processes through. And specifically when we have redundancies. And what we experienced with the third track project is NEPA significantly slows down that process because we're having to do the same thing twice. So again, I appreciate, Matt, you bringing this forward to the board, and I would ask for your support in presenting these letters to our senators, which I will be following up with their staff as well.
Excellent. We have them drafted on letterhead. We will submit them to our federal advocate this afternoon, and he will transmit them to Senator Schiff and Padilla. Just moving on to other quick items, just want to let you know we are wrapping up, of course, the I-80 auxiliary lanes as was reflected in the budget conversation Jody led you through, and we will be doing a title transfer of the last little slivers of land back to Caltrans. So we're working on that. Just wanted to make you aware of that. And I did want to, I just thought of something that I should have put on the slide, and I didn't think to. Of course, we know that Deputy Executive Director Rick Carter retired in December. And we've chosen to move forward in the future with no deputy executive director right now. But we do need to sort of have a designated number two and somebody with signature authority in my absence. And I want you all to know that that will be Solvi. So Solvi has all signature authority.
Yeah.
And when I'm not here, you'd probably call her anyways. So
We always know, we've
Yeah.
always known she's the one that's in charge.
we get it. Yeah. So anyways, just wanted you all to know that as well. Yeah. That ends my report.
Okay, thank you for that. Board direction to staff. Anybody, any comments? No?
Looking forward to the reception.
Yeah, tomorrow night, yes, we are. Okay, then informational items are available. I think that we need to close to, adjourn to closed session right now? Yes. Okay. Conference room A. Okay, we're back from closed session. And so I have let's see, are you going to talk first?
After the motion is made,
Okay,
then he'll read it.
so I'll make the motion. I move to recommend that the board approve an amendment to Executive Director Matt Click's employment agreement, recognizing a 5% salary increase resulting in an annual salary of $340,149.60, effective January 1st, 2026, and an extension of the term of employment agreement an additional 2 years through December 31st, 2030. All other terms and conditions of the employment agreement shall remain the same.
I'll second.
Yeah, I'll just, sorry.
Yeah, it says effective January 1, so it's, yeah, I didn't have to say retroactive, but, okay, yes?
Yeah, I have just a brief announcement to make prior to the board taking action. Pursuant to Government Code 54953D, prior to taking final action on a contract with the local agency executive, the board must orally report a summary of the executive's compensation. A motion has been made and seconded to approve an amendment to the executive director's employment agreement, recognizing a 5% increase resulting in an annual salary of $340,149.60, and an extension of the term of the employment agreement an additional 2 years through December 31st, 2030. All other terms and conditions of the existing employment agreement will remain the same. A copy of the final agreement will be available for public inspection following execution by all parties. The board may now proceed with voting on the motion.
Okay, I've made a motion by me, second by Dowden Calvio. Does this have to be a roll call or just? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There you go. Motion carries. Congratulations. Alrighty, that really brings us to the end of our meeting today. Our next meeting is on February 25th, 2026, and we'll see most of you tomorrow night at the reception.
So do you want a picture of us?